and my dog Beans. Today we get to make banana mummies together. For step one, always wash your hands. So I'm gonna go do that now. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so what you'll need to make this recipe. First, I'm gonna go over some of the ingredients and then we'll talk about the tools. First of all, you will need 4 bananas. Now they can be in any state. If they aren't this ripe, that's okay. But you'll need 4 of those. Next, you'll need some kind of candy. In the recipe, it calls for mini M&Ms that you can use for the eyes. I have chocolate on my hand, I just realized. And then, if you want, you could also get sprinkles. That's a fun extra. And if you don't want to use M&Ms, I actually found these cute candy eyes at Target. They sell them at Michael's too, but you can use those for eyes instead. The recipe calls for a pound of white chocolate. This chocolate works great. Almond bark. You can also use any other kind of white chocolate that you find. We're going to melt it. Then you'll need chocolate, milk chocolate chips. And lastly, Lollipop sticks. Or you can use popsicle sticks because these can be a little bit difficult to find. I found mine at Michael's craft store. Next, I'm going to talk about the tools. Now you'll need a pan. Any size is fine. I used a very small one. But the pan is to put the bananas on to go in the freezer. Another tool that is not mentioned in the recipe until you start it, but parchment paper works great. This will help us because if we just put the bananas right on this metal pan, they stick. So this helps a lot to keep them from sticking when they're in the freezer. This is kind of a no-bake recipe. All we're doing is heating up chocolate in the microwave. So in order to do that, you'll need to have a measuring cup. Make sure that it is microwave safe. I know mine is. And then you can also, if you don't have a measuring cup, you can use a microwave safe glass bowl. That works too. Then you'll need a spatula. I needed a kitchen scissors to cut the end of the plastic bag off because we're gonna use it like a piping bag. So you'll need 1 or 2 of these, depending on if you wanna do both white chocolate and milk chocolate. I also used a knife to cut the bananas in half. You can also just break them in half. So those are the tools you'll need, and let's get started. So the first thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna line my pan with parchment paper. So it looks like that, so my bananas don't stick. Then step 2, I'm gonna take 4 bananas. We'll save that one for later. I'm gonna peel them. Then depending on the size, how big you want the mummies, you can do more or less. I'm going to cut mine in half though, so that I can get 2 mummies out of 1 banana. You can also break them in half. That works too. You don't have to use a knife. And then I'm gonna cut my bananas in half. Now you can decide how big you want the mummies to be, but I think it makes it a little bit easier to cut the bananas in half. So that's what I'm going to do. You can also break them. You don't need to use a knife. They break in half just as well. So next, we're gonna take our popsicle sticks or our candy lollipop sticks. I know these are a little harder to find. So popsicle sticks work just as well. I just went and opened mine here. We're gonna take one and put it in each half of the banana that we cut. So they're a little curved, so just be careful to not push it out the other side, but that's what it's gonna look like. I'm gonna do that here for all 8. So as I was putting this popsicle stick through the skewer through, I accidentally went too far. Oops, that's okay. If you make a mistake, try again. So I'm just gonna readjust it and put it through. Then after we do this to the bananas, we're going to take them and we're going to put them in the freezer for at least 2 hours. You want them really solid. So this recipe takes a little bit of time. Afterwards, when they come out of the freezer, it goes really quick. But right now we're gonna pop these in the freezer. The only part that Beans helps with here is eating bananas. Otherwise, he's not a very good cook. Now, the next step is to melt our white chocolate. So I'm going to be using a measuring cup, a liquid measuring cup, and I know mine is microwave safe. So make sure that yours is. If you don't have one of these, you can also use a bowl that you know is microwave safe because we're going to be microwaving the chocolate. The best thing to do is to look at the instructions on the chocolate itself to find out how long it takes to melt. Mine here is going to take about 35 seconds, so I'm going to put it in there and make sure it doesn't burn. Now, if you need help figuring out what 1 pound of white chocolate is, I would suggest putting it in your bowl, breaking it into pieces. And then I have a small scale here. It's a food scale. So I'm gonna zero mine out. And I'm gonna put my chocolate in to figure out what a pound of white chocolate looks like. It's quite a bit of chocolate. The goal here is to coat the banana completely. So you wanna cover those bananas. We're gonna dip them in here and you want the whole thing covered. And then as soon as we dip them in the white chocolate, we're going to add on our eyes so that they stick really nicely on the banana. So my chocolate has just come out of the microwave and I am going to give it a mix here. Sometimes it doesn't look fully melted, like there's still some bars in there, but as I mix it with the other parts of chocolate that are really hot, then it starts to melt the other parts. You don't need to keep putting it back in there. The goal is we really don't want to burn it. Now this next part you have to do semi-quickly so that you can get your bananas in here before it goes back to a solid again. So I'm gonna grab my bananas. And while I was melting my chocolate, I got 2 Ziploc bags because we'll need these later to put melted chocolate in to squeeze over it. Now you don't need to have gallon bags. You can use quart or pint size, just depending on how much chocolate you're gonna put in there. Let me grab our frozen bananas. Now we're gonna take each banana and we're just gonna dip it, and you might have to swirl it around a little bit to get it nice and coated. Now if it doesn't go all the way to the bottom, that's just fine. Just try to get as much on there as you can. If you need help, use the spatula to kind of bring it up the sides. I think this is a fun part. Just make sure you don't put your hands in the chocolate because it is quite hot and you can get burned. So be careful when doing this part. And if you need more chocolate, I only melted a little bit of mine at a time. You can always add more. Depends on how much chocolate you like. All right, my chocolate's starting to get kind of hard, so I'm gonna have to move a little bit more quickly for the last few. And I might need to add some more to this measuring cup so that I have more space to dip. All right, it's a little bit messy, so Take your time. The goal is just to have them nicely coated. So this spatula is helping me a lot right now. Perfect. So, this is what they're starting to look like. As you can see, it's not perfect, but it's looking good. If you need to, I'm gonna take the last bit of this chocolate, and just before I pop them in the freezer, I'm gonna take my M&Ms for eyes, or those little candy eyes if you can find those, and I'm gonna pop those on each banana. I'll do a few different ones so you can see how they look. We'll decide which mummies look the best, with the eyes or without. This banana might need a little bit more. Do some red eyes on this one. Let's see, we can do some brown on this one. And I'll go for some candy eyes on this one. And there you have it. So right before they are done, we're gonna put them in this freezer and give them a chill for about 10 minutes. Now, while I'm having them chilled, I'm gonna get some more chocolate melted. Then I'm gonna take the chocolate and pour it into a plastic baggie so that I can use it to pipe over my mummies. If you have piping bags, this would be a great time to use those, but a plastic bag just works just as well. So I have melted my chocolate once again, and I'm giving it a stir. I'm going to take my first bag here. Now this could get a little messy and you may need help. 2 hands might make this a little bit easier. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my bag down. I'm going to start to scoop my chocolate into my bag. Keep scooping. All right, that looks like I've got out as much as I can. Now, I'm gonna shake it down in the bag. I'm gonna make sure it's sealed up really tight and nice. It's pretty warm, so just be careful. Then I'm gonna squeeze it down to one corner of the bag. And after I've got it all in one corner, this part's kind of fun, I'm gonna hold it like this, and I'm gonna take a kitchen scissors and do a very tiny snip on the corner of the bag. I'm not gonna do that quite yet because at first I have to grab my bananas. So they've been in the freezer and they set pretty well. Let me get that kitchen scissors. I'm gonna take my scissors. Now I'm left-handed, so I have to use special scissors because they go the wrong way for me. I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna cut a very little tip off. Whoop, and be careful, it'll start squeezing right away. So then you're gonna drizzle over your mummy, back and forth, back and forth. And mummies are messy, so don't worry if it looks like a bit of a mess. And make sure it goes all the way up over their eyes. Looks like toilet paper or the wraps that they wear. Gets them right around their eyes. So I'll show you what I have so far. So far, this guy, he's all wrapped up, all the way up to his head and back. And then keep going on all of the mummies. Back and forth, back and forth. You can crisscross. Make it look like they're wrapped up so nice. Now it might stop working, so all you have to do is do a little more squeezing to pull that chocolate down into the corner of the bag. And then get some pressure applied on it again. Sometimes I like to do this to get the air out. You want to make sure that bag is sealed at the top though, so you're not having any problems with it coming out the top of your bag. That can be an issue. It's okay if it comes out gloopy. Mummies aren't perfect, so don't expect perfection. All right, I like the way mine looks. This is what they've got going. All wrapped up, those mummies. Now, if you like the look of it, you can melt your milk chocolate and do the same thing. So this time I melted my chocolate chips in a bowl because my other one was dirty. I'm gonna wipe off my spatula so that the colors don't get too mixed together, and I'm going to stir my melted chocolate. There we go, it's starting to melt. So like I said, I'm not gonna put it back in even though some of the chips don't look quite melted yet, because the others will use their heat that are melted to get those melted down. Now, the milk chocolate might dry a little bit faster. It just depends on what kind of chocolate you're using, but sometimes I find that it dries a little bit faster. Doing the same thing I did with the white chocolate, I'm opening up my bag and I'm gonna fill it as much as I possibly can, and depending on how much chocolate I want. And if you don't like this look of the brown mummy wraps, you don't have to do it. You can just do the white and be done. I'm gonna give it a try just because I think it's fun. This part is fun for me to do. I'm gonna slide all that chocolate down to one corner. Try to just keep it in one corner because that makes it a lot easier. I'm gonna do the same thing we did with the white chocolate. Once I get it down into this corner, we're gonna take our kitchen scissors and we're gonna give it a little cut. So there it is. Remember, you can wrap it around if that helps to get some pressure, but you want it to look like that. Take your kitchen scissors, give it a little snip, make sure it's over a bowl, it'll come out pretty quickly. I'm gonna get my bananas. And now I like some of them just the way they are, so I'm only gonna do this on a few. Do a little back and forth drizzle just like we did with the other ones. We'll do this guy. And then we'll do one guy with eyeballs. Now it gets a little messy again. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. We'll do one more with brown. Don't forget to go all the way to the top. They're wrapped up at the top. There, I think that's perfect. So now that those are done, if you want, while the chocolate is still a little bit warm, you can take those fun sprinkles and you can put those on. You can also do that when the white chocolate, if you're just gonna do white chocolate, you can put the sprinkles on then before you pop them in the freezer. I'm just gonna add a few fun sprinkles here to some of the brown ones that I just added. This part's optional. Sometimes mummies just look good the way they are. So I put a few sprinkles on some of them, left some of them plain. It's up to you. I'm gonna hold up this guy. So when you pull them off, they might have little pieces on the side that you can just break off if you want them to look a little bit more perfectly mummy-like. And this is our end result. So fun. And I'll hold up another brown one. Break off these pieces. There you go. How fun is that? You've made Halloween banana mummies. We have some other boxes you can order from Project Soar where we do some cooking together and you get to see an exclusive video and cook with me. Now this is our final result. so cute. What do you think, Beans? Now, Beans can't have chocolate, so sadly, he can't try any of these. But aren't they so cute? And you can make them however you like. I absolutely love them. I think Beans approves. What do you think, buddy? He can't have chocolate, but he can have puppy treats. Good boy. Thanks for cooking with us, and we'll see you next time.